Hello and welcome back to the Lit Cave. This is Brian, and today I'm going to talk to you about, I'm going to kind of wrap up a number of different series that I've finished reading, and they all tie together. They are all kind of connected to Cassandra Clare's Shadowhunter universe. So I've talked about some of these already in, I believe, my November wrap-up. It could have been my October wrap-up. But I did finish reading 3 series that are all sort of interconnected and all have some relation to Cassandra Clare's Shadowhunter world. So let's just jump right in and talk about those books. So the first book series that I'm going to talk about, Holly Black's Modern Fairy Tale series. So Holly Black's Modern Fairy Tale series is a series that I'd actually really intrigued me. Fairy tales for adults at the time that I first heard of this, which was long before I had gotten as deeply into reading as I am now. The idea was super intriguing to me, and I really was interested in reading about it. And I started to read the first book, which is called Tithe, and I did not like it at all. So I put it up, and I just moved on, and I forgot about it. But I started to read Cassandra Clare's Mortal Instrument series, which I'm going to talk about more in a few minutes. And I was kind of reading around on the internet, and I read that this series was related to it. So I was like, you know what, I'm interested in reading it. And I read this after the Mortal Instrument series. But the first book, Tithe, I liked okay. The first book I liked probably better than the second book. But I will tell you that my biggest qualm with this series is that there was not a character that I felt was ultimately very likable. Like, there was nobody in the series that was in this book that was very likable to me at all. And I'll say that, like, a lot of people say that about V.E. Schwab's book Vicious, but I still found myself liking people in that series. I didn't really like almost anyone in this series. But I did think it was decent storytelling. I thought it was an interesting universe that she created. She talked about the Seelie and the Unseelie court and just the way that fairies acted. And I did think, too, that the way that fairies are portrayed in this series is much more similar to the way that fairies are portrayed in fairy tale and folklore. So that I thought was really cool. It's just, man, you really want to like somebody in the series. So this book follows Kay, who has had a rough life growing up, and then one day kind of finds herself dropped into the middle of the fairy universe. And there's some twists and turns in her journey, some love that maybe she should not have, but she pursues anyway, and ultimately turns out to be either a good or bad thing. I don't know for sure. You kind of have to make your own decision when you read the series. So that was the first book. The second book, Valiant, does not at all follow Kay. There's a brief allusion to the fact that Kay existed and what happened in Tithe happened. There is some connection to the Seelie and the Unseelie court, but this kind of follows a very different side of the fairy world, and I thought that this one was unique. I didn't like it quite as much as Tithe, but I thought that it was more original than Tithe was. So that was Valiant, and then the last book was Ironside. And what I love about Ironside is it brings both those first two books together, because after I read Valiant, I was like, how are these books even connected to one another other than those brief mentions? Are they just sort of a companion series? And this kind of ties them all together pretty well. Overall, I think the series for me was probably a 3. It was not that great, but I thought it was really cool that she set up the Seelie and Unseelie court. And I gotta say, one of the things that I think is so interesting about the whole thing is that, Cassandra Clare creates this really, big world around her Shadowhunters, and then to actually pull from the writing of someone else that she loves, and for that writer to be okay with it. And of course, if you know much about them, you know that Holly Black and Cassandra Clare are really good friends, live really close to each other, and now we're writing a series together called the Magisterium series, or Magisterium Chronicles, or whatever. This was book 1. This is the Iron Trial. But just for them to be able to collaborate a little bit without really, I don't think Holly Black wrote the Modern Fairy Tale series with the intention of collaborating, but then for Cassandra Clare to take from that, I thought was super cool. So another book series that I finished, and I do recommend that you read this before the Mortal Instruments series, because the last book of the Mortal Instruments series spoils some stuff for this series, is the Infernal Devices series. So the Infernal Devices series starts with Clockwork Angel, And then there's Clockwork Prince and Clockwork Princess. So if you don't know much about the Shadowhunter world, the Shadowhunters are people that are half angel. They have the blood of the angels in them, and so they have been given some abilities beyond that of normal humans. But those abilities are so that they can destroy the demonic and kind of guard the realm. And so you have straight demons that are evil, and then you also have different races, such as werewolves and vampires, that are like half demon blood and half something else. So the Shadowhunters are there to sort of police the spiritual realms, so to speak. The Infernal Devices series is set in the 1800s in London, and this series is so well written. I've heard some people say that in a lot of ways this series is strongly connected to A Tale of Two Cities. And of course, A Tale of Two Cities is mentioned throughout this series over and over and over. But in some ways, this series is kind of like an adaptation of A Tale of Two Cities with a lot of changes, obviously. But there's this relationship that occurs in this series. And I don't want to give out too many spoilers, but there's a relationship that occurs throughout this series. And it's sort of a love triangle, but I think that for the first time in this love triangle, you really feel for everyone. There's not somebody that you think is mistreating somebody else. It's just like everybody's feelings are this jumble, and you wish that everybody could end up happy with the person that they love. And yeah, I'm just trying to think how much I can say without giving spoilers. I will say that for me, the Infernal Devices series was a 5-star series. It was fantastic. One of the best series I've read all year. And I cannot recommend it enough. I do recommend that you read it before the Mortal Instrument series, which is the more well-known series. But really, really well written. So that's about all I'm going to say about it, because I'm just so afraid of giving spoilers. And that leaves us with the Mortal Instruments series. So the Mortal Instruments series is a 6-book series. You'll have to ignore my notifications. I should have turned it on silent. But the Mortal Instruments series is a 6-book series by Cassandra Clare. And it's set in modern times. And the main character of this series is a girl named Clare, who has been sort of drawing these images and not knowing what they mean. And then one day she sees something really crazy happen in a club. And she's kind of thrown into the world of the Shadowhunters. She's a mortal, or so she thinks, that is thrown into the world of all this demon hunting and angelic versus demonic warfare. And she's got to kind of deal with that. And she finds out that maybe there's a history there that she didn't even know about. So the first book is City of Bones. This one's been turned into a movie, and I'm going to say for me, I didn't think the movie was that bad. It wasn't fantastic, but it wasn't bad. It needed some changes for sure, and rumor has it that they're going to be turning this into a TV series now, which I think would be great. I'd love to watch the TV series, especially if it was done well. So City of Bones is the first book, and then we have City of Ashes, and we have City of Glass. Now, originally this was going to be a trilogy, and I loved the first 3 books so much. But I guess partway through the 3rd book, they decided to go ahead and extend the series, or Cassandra, I don't know if it was Cassandra Clare or the publishers, decided to extend the series, and it became a 6-book series. And when it became a 6-book series, the ending of the 3rd book kind of leaves you hanging, leaves it open. There's some conclusion, good conclusion, but it's open to another series. And so that opens it up to the last 3 books of the series, which are City of Fallen Angels, City of Lost Souls, and City of Heavenly Fire. And can I say, I know that I've seen some people talk about this. I want to say, I can't remember right now. I saw someone talking about this very thing. But the fact that it's super irritating when publishers create books that are not the same size. So, I mean, look at how significant the difference of these books are. And these are the British paperback editions. I bought them at a half-price books, all of them except for the 7th book, which I ordered from England. And so disappointed to find the 7th book not the same size. So now I have to replace either that book or all of the books. And I wouldn't mind getting hardbacks of them, honestly. But so here's how I felt about the series. The first 3 books I probably would have given 5 stars. I thought they were phenomenal. I'd never read anything quite like them, and I was really interested in them. I got to book 4, and I didn't dig it so much. I thought it was okay. I thought that it did not have my attention the way the first 3 books were, but it was still decent. By the time I got to the 5th book, I was sick of them. And I think that that had a lot to do with the fact that I read them all straight through. I just kept reading. And they're really good, but I don't think you should read all 6 straight through. You need to kind of take a break, or maybe I just needed to read them a little slower, so it didn't feel like I was cramming so much in. But so I read part of the 5th book, and I totally stopped, and just didn't want to read them anymore. And then I have a friend who had already finished the series, and she highly recommended that I go back and read the 5th book. So I read the 5th book again, and I liked it. And then I finished the 6th book, and I loved the 6th book. So I think for this series, for me, it's probably going to be about a 4-star series. It's not quite 5-star material, but it's really good, and it's definitely better than the Modern Fairy Tale series. But I really enjoyed it. Now, here's what I love the most, is that Cassandra Clare has 3 more trilogies in mind. There's the Dark Artifices series, and the Last Hour series, and I cannot remember the name of the 3rd series off the top of my head right now. But she's got 3 more trilogies planned, all set in the Shadowhunter's world, which I think is super cool. And I cannot wait to continue reading Cassandra Clare's writing. I think she's a great writer, and she'll be an insta-buy for me. Like, the second they come out, I'll buy the books in the Shadowhunter's world. Now, she has written 2 other books that have to do with the Shadowhunter's world, which I own. They're not part of a series, and I haven't read either of these yet. They're both on my TBR. So one of them is the Shadowhunter's Codex, and the Shadowhunter's Codex is a book that the actual Shadowhunters in her series use. It's kind of like a manual, and so that's what this is. It's a lot like the school books, the Harry Potter school books, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and Quidditch Through the Ages. It's got notes from some of the other Shadowhunters in it. So, like, this book supposedly once belonged to Clary Frey, to Simon Lewis, to Jace Wayland. So, those are some important characters in the Shadowhunters series. So, it'll be interesting to kind of read through that. This isn't something I don't think that I would read through cover to cover, but maybe read a little bit here and there. And then the newest thing is the Bane Chronicles, which is a series of short stories written by Cassandra Clare, Sarah Reese Brennan, and Maureen Johnson, following Bane, Magnus Bane, who is the Warlock Supreme or whatever in this series. And so I think that this will also be incredibly interesting to read. I'm really excited to kind of check this out. I was about to start it. In fact, I'd started the first story when I got a copy of Throne of Glass, which I had been so eager to read that series that I kind of dropped everything and read the 4 books of that were already out. So, but I'm going to pick that back up here pretty soon. So, all right, that is what I own of the, oh, did you see my teddy bear fall? Yep, teddy bear overboard. That's what I own of the Shadowhunter's world, and tell me what you think about Cassandra Clare's world down below. How would you rate those series if you've read all of them? And what are you most eager to read of hers that's still coming out? Until next time, see you same lit time, same lit channel.